I would like to introduce you all to the next President of the United States, Andrew Yang.
And I did not realize how big this crowd was until just now. This is one big gang, and it's getting bigger all the time. Thank you, Yang Gang Seattle! Well, when you come to a group like this, I have to say, it's almost fun for my campaign team and I, because people are talking about these other candidates, and we're drawing bigger crowds, getting bigger numbers, we're pulling at higher levels. Now, you all are here, if you're here, you know that I'm not a career politician, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a problem solver, and I'm here to solve the problem that's been driving our country to distraction for the last 2 years, which is how the heck did Donald Trump win in 2016? And if you were just to come from another planet and turn on CNN, what would you think were the reasons why Donald Trump won? The list would go on agree. So if someone just shouted Russia, that's definitely very high on the list. Maybe Facebook, maybe FBI, maybe Hillary Clinton. But I looked at the numbers, I did some math. And the reason why Donald Trump is our president today is that we automated away 4 million manufacturing jobs in Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Missouri, Iowa, all the swing states that he needed to win. How many of you are from one of those states? Yeah, I knew it. And so if you're from those states, you know what I mean. And now, how many of you all work for Amazon or one of the tech companies out here? It's cool. Techies are a big part of the Yang Gang. And if you work in technology, you know that what we did to the manufacturing jobs, we will now do to the retail jobs, the call center jobs, the fast food jobs, the truck driving jobs, and also jobs like bookkeeping, accounting. I was an unhappy corporate attorney for 5 whole months, and I guarantee you can automate that job. We are in the 3rd inning of the greatest economic and technological transformation in the history of our country. It's called the 4th Industrial Revolution. It is already tearing us apart. Donald Trump is a symptom. He's not the disease. It is not immigrants that are causing these problems throughout our country and economy. It is technology. It is not immigrants. What do you think, Seattle? So this is what drove Donald Trump to win. And I looked at the numbers. There's actually a direct line up between the adoption of industrial robots in a district and the movement towards Donald Trump. You can actually trace the line district by district. So I had the research, and I went to Washington, D.C., and I'm a pretty cool guy, so I can meet with fairly important people. Yeah! Woo-hoo! And what do you think the folks in Washington, D.C. said to me when I said, hey guys, we're going through this massive transformation. It's already gotten Donald Trump in the White House, and it's just going to get worse. What are we going to do? What do you think the folks in Washington, D.C. said to me when I said, what are we going to do? So the big responses I got were, number 1, we cannot talk about that. Wow. Number 2, we should study that. And number 3, we must educate and train all Americans for the jobs of the future. And that third one sounds halfway responsible. if you really didn't know what they were saying, you'd be like, yeah, that's right. And then you just like turn away. And then they'd go back to their salad and say, excellent, the conversation is over. But again, I looked at the numbers. The effectiveness rate of government-funded retraining programs for manufacturing workers. What do you how effective do you think those were? Shout out some numbers.
Not very effective.
It was 0 to 15%. And so then when I said, hey, we're terrible at that, it's 0 to 15%. You know what they said to me? They said, he said the salad is delicious. That's what he said. But what they said to me was, I guess we'll get better at it then. That's what passes for policy in Washington, D.C. I guess we'll get better. So I came back from Washington, D.C. There was one guy there who actually did me this immense favor, and he said something I'm going to share with you all today. He said, Andrew, you're in the wrong town. No one here is going to do anything about these problems because this is not a town of leaders. Washington, D.C. is a town of followers. And this guy actually said to me in a meeting in D.C., he said, the only way that we will try and solve these problems is if you were to create a wave in other parts of the country and bring that wave crashing down on our heads. And what I said to him was, challenge fucking accepted. And that's why I'm here with you all tonight, Seattle, to create that wave, bring it crashing down on their heads, wake them up, and say that we can do better than this. We can solve the problems that are tearing our society apart. So how do we do that? If you're here with us tonight, you've heard this sentence at some point. There's an Asian man running for president who wants to give everyone $1,000 a month. Am I right? And all those three things are true. Now, the first time you heard that, you were like, that sounds like a gimmick. But then when you dig in, you realize that this idea has been with us since the founding of our country. Thomas Paine was for it at the beginning. He called it the citizen's dividend. Martin Luther King championed it in 1967. He called it a guaranteed minimum income, and it is what he was fighting for until he was assassinated the following year in 1968. Milton Friedman and 1,000 economists signed a study saying this would be tremendous for America. So much so, it was so mainstream that it passed the U.S. House of Representatives in 1971 twice. It almost became law, it came this close. And then 11 years later, one state did pass a dividend where now everyone in that state gets between $1,000 and $2,000 a year, no questions asked. And what state is that? And how do they pay for it? And what is the oil of the 21st century? Technology. Marijuana, that's right, Seattle. No, you are right, it's technology. It's marijuana-related technology. Technology is the oil of the 21st century. What they're paying for in Alaska with oil money, we can pay for with technology throughout the country. Now, I know some of you work for Amazon. How much did Amazon pay in federal taxes last year? Zero. That's right. And you know those accountants were high-fiving, being like, we got it down to zero taxes again this year. Jeff's going to be so happy with us. He's going to give us another Buick full of cash. And then we're going to take that cash home to our mansions, throw it in the vault, and take a bath in it like Scrooge McDuck, like we do in all the good years. Amazon's like this giant vacuum sucking up $20 billion in commerce every year out of our Main Street economies. Now, it is not Amazon's fault. Amazon's just really good at what it does. And it's not even Amazon's fault that they're paying zero in taxes. That's also their job. But it's our fault if they're paying zero in taxes. People look around, it's like, we must have messed up if we've designed a system where $1 trillion tech company can pay less in federal taxes than everyone here in this park tonight. So the boys are like, oh shit, is Jeff watching me right now? Should I cheer for this? It's cool, it's cool. Jeff's looking at some rocket to Mars right now. He's not paying attention to this part. He'll pay attention to it later when I'm in the White House. So if companies like Amazon are going to invest billions of dollars in AI and make things faster and more efficient, that's great. But we have to put our entire society, including everyone here in Seattle, in position to benefit from that progress and share in it. And that's what this $1,000 a month is designed to do. Now, I want you all to think for a second. After I'm president, thank you, Seattle. We pass the dividend, it comes your way. You all are like, wow, this really is happening. Like the dividend's really coming through. What would you all spend the money on? So the point is that you would spend the money on things that you want, and a lot of that money would stay right here in the economy and circulate over and over again. It would make you all stronger, healthier, mentally healthier, would improve your relationships, would help create a path for you to do more of the work that you want to do. This is a human-centered trickle-up economy, from people, families, and communities up, and that's what we can make a reality. Yes, this $1,000 a month, again, as soon as you dig into it, you realize, wait a minute, like this would be tremendous for our society. It is one of the only meaningful things we can do in the face of the fourth industrial revolution, and there's nothing stopping a majority of citizens in a democracy from voting ourselves a dividend. Nothing at all. If 51% of us get together and say, hey, that makes a lot of sense, let's vote ourselves a dividend, then we will make it happen. And that is why we are building this movement tonight. So the first big move is the freedom dividend. The second big move is to get healthcare off the backs of American families and businesses. It is totally messed up in the richest and most advanced country in the history of the world. When we get sick or injured, we are more stressed out about navigating our healthcare system and our bureaucracy and paying for treatment than we are getting well. And it does not need to be that way. And one thing that infuriates me is when people are like, how are you going to pay for that? Are you kidding me? We already spend twice as much in our healthcare as other countries to worse effects. We're spending 18% of GDP. Again, I did the math. We can get the prices down, the access up, and improve our healthcare system and make it much more transparent and rational. I have a friend who's a healthcare investor. And she said to me, she said, Andrew, I've been looking at the numbers of these healthcare companies and I've never seen anything like it. I have never seen profiteering at this level. It is like, she said, like it actually struck her as completely corrupt. And she went so far as to say she's going to short the stocks or bet against the stocks of those companies. And then she gave me a donation and she said, go clean that shit up. So that's what we have to do in the healthcare system. We have to straighten out our incentives. We have to make it so that right now our healthcare providers benefit more from revenue generating activity than they do something that would make us healthy. And if we get the incentives right, we can make it so that our healthcare system starts working for us. So the third big thing is, how many of you all woke up this morning? Oh, what do we got?
Eagles.
Eagles, it's a sign. This cap off of my head. So the third big move we have to make, how many of you were excited about GDP when you woke up this morning? How many of you were like, I'm going to make a big contribution today, I can feel it. So GDP is going up and up. Meanwhile, more and more Americans are getting left behind. How many of you knew that our life expectancy has declined for the last 3 years? Yeah, and why is that? Suicides and drug overdoses have both overtaken vehicle deaths as leading cause of death for the first time in American history. Do you all want to know the last time our life expectancy declined for 3 years in a row? The Spanish flu of 1918. That man's definitely a Yang gangster. Yeah, it's the Spanish flu. So what good is celebrating record high GDP when our people are dying younger? And right now, my wife is at home with our 2 boys, one of whom is autistic. What does her work get calculated at in GDP? 0! What is the market value her work at? 0! And we all know that's nonsense. We know that the work she's doing is more challenging and important and vital for our future than a lot of the other work that's going on. And this is one thing that the freedom dividend will do, and it does not balance the scales. But right now, there are millions of American women who are in exploitative or abusive jobs or relationships because they lack the economic means to improve their situations, and $1,000 a month would make a tremendous difference. Now, the Democratic Party talks all the time about empowering women. And I'm going to suggest that nothing would empower women more directly and effectively than putting $1,000 a month into their hands. We can either talk about empowering women or we can do something about it. And I say we do something about it. So if GDP is not a measurement that we're excited about, what would get you all excited? What would you like if that improved, that would actually make you say, wow, things are getting better? Andrew Yang in the White House, I appreciate that. So mental health and freedom from substance abuse. Education and childhood success. Our own health and life expectancy. Yes, homelessness and everyone having a roof over their head. How clean our air and water are. These are measurements that would actually get you excited. And this is what we can use to measure our progress moving forward. We made up GDP almost 100 years ago. And even the inventor of GDP said 3 things. He said, number 1, this is a terrible measurement for national well-being and we should never use it as that. Number 2, we should include parenthood and motherhood because it's so important. And number 3, we should not include military defense spending because it adds no economic value. So of course we ignored all 3 of those things, and now we're riding GDP off a cliff because things like self-driving trucks and AI are going to be great for GDP, but they're going to leave more and more Americans behind. Now here's a great thing, Seattle. This is not that hard to fix. After you get me into the White House, all I have to do... USA! 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 Are you chanting USA or US Yang? I couldn't even tell. Either one. When you were saying USA and I cupped my ear, I got like Hulk Hogan flashbacks, the 80s. So this is not that hard to fix. After I'm president, all I have to do is go down the street to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics and say, hey, GDP, really old, really out of date. How about we update it with these other measurements that people would be much more excited about, and then I'll present them all to you every year at the State of the Union. I'm going to be the first president to use PowerPoint in the State of the Union. How do you feel about that? Yeah, break out the PowerPoint champ. I don't do it. Yes, this is the nerdiest presidential campaign in history. We did it, Seattle. We weren't quite there until that moment, but then you just did it. But seriously, like the State of the Union addresses are becoming these bizarre theater performances that are like borderline unwatchable. Am I right? Yes. So then you turn it on, you'd be like, oh, I wonder how we're doing. And then I'd be like, hey guys, like, here's our life expectancy declining. That's terrible. Like, let's try and do something about that. You know, like we'd actually see, and then you'd be like, oh, I wonder how we're doing this year. And then I'll have the measurements up, and then it'll get us galvanized and hopefully even start rewarding the individuals and organizations that help make our society stronger. So if a company or organization got someone off of drugs or helped someone reintegrate into society after they came out of prison, then we'd be celebrating that instead of this GDP number that's increasingly unrelated to how we're doing. So these are the three big changes. As you all know, I've got about 103 other changes on the website at yang2020.com because I'm very, very detail oriented. But the three big changes, the freedom dividend, public option for healthcare, and a human-centered economy that revolves around things that work for us are the three biggest changes I will make as president. Yes. So I'm going to talk a little bit. I'm going to bring you guys behind the curtain a little bit. It's so much fun. This campaign, we're like taking off, and I'm a numbers guy, and I see all the numbers heading up to the right. So we are polling at 3% nationwide, higher than your governor, Jay Inslee. I don't want to bag on Jay. He's a nice guy. All right. Apparently they don't think Jay's a nice guy. That's fine. Yeah. So we're polling at 3%. We have raised over $3 million in average donations of only $19. So I joke all the time that my fans are even cheaper than birdies. How many of you all have donated to this campaign? Raise your hand. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So if you have not donated and you donate $20, you will immediately be an above average member of the gang. This is a very cheap gang to join. So a guy named Nate Silver, who loves digging into facts and figures, he looked at three things. He said, wait a minute, Andrew Yang is polling at 3%. He's raised over $3 million in a grassroots campaign, and no one's ever heard of him. And he said, looking at those three variables, we cannot rule out the possibility that Andrew Yang will grow and grow and grow and win the whole thing. Right now, Democrats are casting about. You ask Democrats what the most important feature in a candidate is, and it's beat Donald Trump. And I'm going to suggest to you all tonight, Seattle, that the candidate that's best positioned to beat Donald Trump is a candidate who's already getting support from independents, libertarians, Trump voters. I see, I love that. Democrats and progressives. This campaign is bringing all Americans together. It's one reason why, as we go down this campaign, Democrats are going to wake up and say, wait a minute, he's the guy who's going to beat Donald Trump for us. And I am already one of only 8 candidates to qualify for the Democratic primary debates in June and July. On the basis of both polling and donations. So thank you for making that happen. And you know what America's going to think when they turn on that TV and see me on stage. They're going to ask, who is the Asian man next to Joe Biden? That's my president. And then they're going to Google Andrew Yang and they're going to be like, holy cow. $1,000 a month is a much more concrete way to improve my life than anything anyone else on that stage is talking about. And we're going to grow and grow and grow. So you all are among the early adopters of this wave that's just going to keep on growing, and it's going to crest right at the right time when the voting starts in early 2020. Oh, Donald Trump is our president today. Unfortunately, if you remember in 2016, he went around saying, hey, there are massive problems, people are suffering. And he was right. And what was the Democratic response at that time? They were like things are actually pretty great. That was the Democratic response. And that was not the right response. Donald Trump's our president today because he got the problems essentially correct, but his solutions are the opposite of what we need as a country. What are his solutions? His solutions are to build a wall, to turn back the clock, to bring the jobs back, and we need to do the opposite of those things. We need to turn the clock forward. We need to accelerate our society and our economy, and I'm the man for that job because the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math. Chant my name, Seattle! Can you dig it? All right, some Warriors fans. That's beautiful. So we have been growing this campaign, and this math hat that some of you have on has become this icon in its own right. I have to say how much fun it is when I wear this math hat around. Actually, at this point now, I get recognized on the street no matter what I'm wearing. But I want you to try this. For those of you who have a math hat, just start wearing it around and then see what happens. Because every once in a while, someone will look at you and go, "Yang Gang!" It is so much fun. And then you share like this inside, like, yeah. So if you don't have a math hat yet, you should definitely get one and try this out. And you'll be part of this wave that's going to sweep the country. Because what does math stand for? Make America think harder. That's right. Thank you, Seattle. Let's take this movement all the way to the White House in 2020 and show the country that we can make things the way that we know they can be. Thank you all so much.